thing we're going to do today is kind of an experiment. And Commissioner Barragan is going to report about do a sort of a progress report about how the ad hoc for illegal fireworks has been working. But what we're going to do is mix that in with Commissioner Cunningham's ideas on how ad hocs ought to work. So we're going to do kind of a co-presentation of things here, and we'll see how this flies.
Okay, so we have the Illegal Fireworks Ad Hoc Committee, and that would be Commissioner Bergen, Carter, Kolstad, and Navarro. Next slide, there we go. So, outreach. Establishing communication and engaging with the community is key. In efforts to finding solutions to increase safety in the battle against illegal fireworks, Commissioner Bergen and Navarro attended a Stop Illegal Fireworks Committee meeting on November 14th of this year to engage and listen to community concerns. And this committee was really thankful that we took the time to sit and listen and engage with them, which is, like I said, it's key. Let's see here. The Stop Illegal Fireworks Committee created a social media group page on Facebook to create awareness and is dedicated to their cause. Next slide.
Shifts over to Gary.
Right.
So there's a structure around how the committees work.
Right, and the fireworks committee's been using that structure, and some of the people tonight, they've mentioned they've already had their meetings, and they're employing some of these, your meeting agenda, meeting minutes. Commissioner Martin said he went to go-to meetings, so it's whatever works for your group. You know, you don't have to be locked into a face-to-face if you don't have to, but using the reporting aspect of this, the view graphs with bullets, with summaries, rather than have 2 or 3 pages of a detailed report and then try to read it at the meeting. You're better off just pulling the summary out of that report and referencing that, and have the committee read the commission read the report and then get the highlights with view graphs.
So in the case of the fireworks subcommittee, this is what Commissioner Bergen presented.
Okay, so we have an agenda, which is really simple, and of course, list the date and the time that you are scheduled to meet, and list a few items that you're going to talk about. The commissioners come together, give a little update amongst yourselves. In our case, we set priorities for the ad hoc with realistic goals, and we wanted, we listed there moving forward, next steps to proceed, little blurts about more funding for communications, which would be call takers for 311, and maybe possibly a letter drafted. Let's see here. The other thing would be minutes. So you want to jot down, if you have a designated note taker, that would be great and make things easier. So we have a little bit of minutes, very simple. List the date. Attendance is important too. I would reflect the attendance as item 1. And a little bit about what was done. So here we got revised priorities from 12 to 4. Top priorities, top 4 priorities list communications, and it has call takers, street closure, permit applications, enhancement, and to create an outreach flyer and report back to the commission with progress and findings. Next item would be outreach is key, which is a given, and we'll always emphasize on the outreach part. And number 5, NC to advocate for, maybe I should read your computer, advocate for the online reporting tool, possibly a letter. Item 6, NC to host in February, possibly a discussion on vets, pets, and religion, and this is in regards to the fireworks. Item 7, Commissioner Carter to establish contact with the fire department. And item 8, how do we measure success? And on the bottom half, it's just an update for the whole commission, and it's just a little blurb about what was done in that month. Setting realistic priorities. Our ad hoc met, reviewed, and discussed the original list of recommendations from our first report. Upon review, our list our list was too ambitious, and we agreed to set realistic priorities. Our recommendation list started with 12 and was reduced to 4 top priorities. Priority list. Let me just read for mine instead. Make sure I'm on track. Priority number 1, communications. Establish contact with PD, research and gain insight about 311 call takers, operations. Aim to provide recommendations to enhance safety in neighborhoods. Priority 2, street closure application. Establish communication with SJPD's permit department and request an update of the street closure application. The ideal update would expand on fines, include the municipal code, and educate on dangers of fireworks. Priority 3, outreach flyer. Create flyer that is to be promoted by the Neighborhoods Commission in efforts to enhance neighborhood safety. Priority 4, report back. Report back to the Commission with the results of our progress and efforts. Next slide.
Okay, we'll shift back to the scheduling here with Commissioner Cunningham.
Right, and here, we're just showing some major, just monthly basic dates that are coming up, but the main thing in reading this and what we encounter, what I encounter, is you may have conflicts in January. You have neighborhood commission, the commission meetings, you may have some budget issue meetings coming up, so you need to get those populated at least in a schedule that shows those, so that when you're doing your business on your committee, you don't have conflicts there. This is kind of a simplified one. I kind of like the timeline ones that show where they're stacked and all that.
We just put this together.
Questions and feedback. I'd like to kind of go around the table here. Do we have time for that?
Yeah, we do.
Let's start with Commissioner Szymanski. Do you have any feedback for us? Matt.
It's hard.
No, I think it's good, and I think to narrow it down to a more focus is the way to go. The only question I have is the enforcement part is maybe the difficult part, but maybe that'll be gleaned as you move along.
Great. Thank you. Espinoza?
Yeah, I think also the enforcement part of this, getting in, the city has in place now code enforcement, I believe, and fire and park rangers and stuff. So I think that's probably the main thing there. And do we have enough of those people who can enforce, stuff like this going on throughout the city? And it's throughout the entire city, so it's a lot.
Yeah. Thank you.
I just have an amendment to what I said. I was a little disappointed, the statistics from this last July, how few citations were actually generated. So that was kind of disappointing. I thought the precedent needed to be set. Just a little footnote.
Yeah, I mentioned it before also. I think we need to look into the public groups, whether it's a religious group or a neighborhood association, who actually indulge in illegal fireworks, or basically on their premises, people indulge in illegal fireworks. There is no way to then basically report against them, and the cops, they don't do anything. Like a group mentality is there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Just a comment, we wanted to narrow our scope down a little bit, so we had goals that we could really meet within the scope of our time frame of when we started and when we finished. It was also important for us to get feedback from San Jose PD, Fire, and Communications regarding what they thought is important for them, and then incorporate that into our goals and purposes and objectives. So we really value that feedback from them and work as a partner with them to try and alleviate the illegal fireworks problem that's in the city right now.
As far as the fireworks, I think you did a great job. Not just because I was part of it, but you're a great example. I think that incorporating, as for the communications, incorporating the community kills many birds with one stone. We get the community engagement part. They know that we are existing and we're there for them. do that with all the other ad hoc committees and continue forward to let the public know that we're here really for them and to facilitate it for the council and the mayor.
Thank you.
I think it's great that you were able to narrow your focus. I think that's something that a lot of the committees need to pay attention to. And I would also like to point out that it's not just veterans who have PTSD. There are a lot of people who have been victims of accidents, have had traumatic childhoods and other things like that, and they may be affected just as much as veterans.
That's a great point.
Pass, thank you.
Okay. I don't have any more feedback, but I'm loving this feedback.
Yeah. And, you know, and to go on by the insight too, the fact that you went through that list, you had that realization that you had too many, and you did that evaluation, that's the dynamics of the ad hoc, and that's the production you need out of an ad hoc that shows, you know, you got dynamic there, it's working.
Yeah, that it's okay to scale it down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Could you actually put the slide back up that shows the 4 items?
Okay.
Just because I think that's the crux of this whole thing, you know, the process that you went through, agony with the community, I think it's absolutely awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good definition for each one.
Thank you. Our neighborhood gets a lot of random fireworks going off any time of the year, and especially around 4th of July. So I'm always very concerned about pets that get fearful of them, especially if they're left outside. What we have found works for our pets is to turn on a Capital 4 very loudly in the house, and whenever any firework goes off, we give our dogs a treat, and then they look forward to having an explosion. So our dogs are very treat focused and work quite well. Thank you.
I thought the presentation was great, full of information. One thing that I was curious about, it was the 4th of July, the enforcement's pretty intense. I was just wondering, in regards to New Year's Eve, you know, what's the difference as far as the enforcement level?
So as of right now for New Year's Eve, the online tool will not be available. So that's the downfall in the information that we did receive. However, continue to advocate for reporting to 311, as well as the non-emergency number for if you're calling from a cell phone. And that was the importance of creating an outreach flyer. So it's just to really continue to outreach, to continue to advocate the message of keep reporting, don't lose hope.
I think we're in good hands with the great ad hoc. Good job.
Thank you.
Yes, last year, well, this past year, there was fireworks on Little Saigon, tremendous, a lot of fireworks. And some of them were so strong that landed on top of one of their buildings, caught on fire. It had $140,000 worth of damage to that building. Whether they had a permit or not, that I don't know, I didn't find out. But that's what I believe, there were just people there throwing off fireworks. And that's what happened. That's what illegal fireworks causes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Henry, did you have a comment? Okay.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, good discussion. We need to backtrack a bit because in my usual Robert's Rules clumsiness, we forgot to vote on creating the ad hoc for the voice of the community. So, can I get a motion to create the Commissioner Henry's ad hoc?
Motion
Motion
to create the ad hoc for a voice of the community.
from Aragon is the motion, and the second is Navarro. Okay. All in favor, green? Anybody opposed? Wonderful, thanks. I'll get used to this eventually.